Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Franchise Player, and today we're checking out 5 3DS games that I'm still playing in 2024. So unfortunately the eShop has been shut down for quite some time on the 3DS, and within the past month or so, the online servers have officially been killed. So I'm really jumping back into the 3DS library, trying to look at some games that I missed out on because I didn't have a 3DS when it was like the new fresh system from Nintendo. At the time, I just wasn't really playing handhelds. I was in high school. The 3DS was not really on my radar. So now that the system's kind of officially dead, I have a modded one. I'm definitely diving deep into some games that I wish I would have played years ago and I'm now fully appreciating. Let's get right into it. We're checking out 5 games that I love on the 3DS that I'm still playing in 2024. And I'll probably have a part 2 of this coming soon. So first up, we're going with one of my all-time favorites, and that's Kirby Triple Deluxe. I've had this game for a few years now, but I'm going back and playing it in 2024 and still loving it, man. Kirby's probably my favorite Nintendo franchise of all time. Like, don't get me wrong, Mario's great, Donkey Kong's awesome, Legend of Zelda's great, right? But I don't know, there's something about Kirby, dude, that I just love and I think is super fun and really holds up. Even the older Kirby games are fantastic, but Kirby Triple Deluxe is a game that if you're going the physical route, you can get it for about 15 or 20 bucks easily, CIB. If you have a modded 3DS, that's a different story, but this is a game that goes for about 15 or 20 bucks. Had, pretty solid acclaim when it originally came out. Looks like Metacritic gave it an 80, which, is solid, but, take Metacritic with a grain of salt. Kind of the big thing with this game, with Kirby Triple Deluxe, is there was a Hypernova ability where Kirby basically has this like ultra inhale ability. It's his Hypernova, and that's kind of like the gimmick of the game. But overall, it's just good, classic, side-scrolling Kirby fun. So classic, inhaling enemies, stealing their power, going through levels, going through different like layers in the level, which I think was really cool as well. And if you have the 3D turned on this, I think it looks really nice. I used to think the 3D was like a huge gimmick. Don't get me wrong, the 3D is a gimmick to a certain extent, but I think it looks really good on Triple Deluxe. Kirby Triple Deluxe is, with it having just classic Kirby gameplay, is a game that I think you can jump in and just play and hop on and have a great time. That's what I really like about the 3DS, and a big reason I'm playing 3DS in 2024 is, with just life, work, everything, I just want a game that I can jump into, chill out, not really have to think. Like, story-driven games are great. Like, that's why I love having a PS5, for example, and a PS4. Games like The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, things like that. But I'm kind of in a phase right now where I just want to jump in, chill, not really think, and want to just play a fun, simple game. And that's where something like Kirby Triple Deluxe can really come into play. And I highly recommend it. 15 or 20 bucks. I think this game is an absolute no-brainer, dude. So the next game we're going to be talking about is a digital-only game. And there's a couple digital-only games on this list. So kind of unfortunate with the eShop being closed. Really, your only way of having this is either A, you bought it back in the day before the store shut down, or B, you have a modded 3DS like myself. But the game we're going to be checking out is Steel Empire. Steel Empire is an amazing, amazing shoot 'em up. I've gotten really into shmups over the past, I'd say, 2 years. Past year and a half, past 2 years or so, because shmups are just a great game that you can really jump into. You can kind of take it competitively if you want, or you can just sit back, chill, enjoy the graphics, enjoy the music, because most shmups typically have a good soundtrack. Steel Empire was a game that I didn't really know about until I was diving more into the 3DS library. Steel Empire also has a port on the Game Boy Advance, I believe from 2004, and then it originally came out in 1992. So this is not a new game by any means, but Steel Empire looks really crisp on a 3DS. The soundtrack is great. The colors are really vibrant. The gameplay is smooth. It's a really cool shoot 'em up in the sense that you can shoot either to the left or right, since it's a side-scrolling shmup, not a vertical scrolling shmup. So you can shoot enemies behind you, in front of you. There's a nice basic bomb ability you have, so you can take, if you get overwhelmed, you can just kind of let that bomb off and take everyone out off screen pretty much. But yeah, I've been sinking some time into this. I wish this game was available on Vita, because I would definitely play it on there and I think it would look great on the Vita's OLED, but I'm really enjoying it on 3DS, man. Great soundtrack. I think the soundtrack here is fantastic. This is a game where you're probably gonna wanna throw some headphones in and just vibe out and really get sucked into the game. Shmup wise, I mean, it might be challenging to some. I don't think it's like a bullet hell game by any means. You can adjust the difficulty level as well if you're wanting something a bit more relaxed. There's a couple different planes / ships that you can go in. Another thing that's cool about Steel Empire is it's kind of like a steampunk style game. It's gonna have some really cool graphics and some really cool looking enemies and objects and just maps and levels that you're flying through. If you're a shmup fan, if you have a 3DS, I can't recommend Steel Empire enough, but like I said, this doesn't have a physical release on 3DS to my knowledge. eShop is gone, unfortunately, so unless you have a modded 3DS, or bought it back in the day, that's gonna be the only way you're gonna get it. So yeah, Steel Empire, I highly recommend for 3DS. So next up here is a Pokemon game, and I know a lot of you are gonna be like, man, a Pokemon game, like obviously, right? Yeah, I'm playing some Pokemon games in 2024. I was not a big fan of Scarlet and Violet on Switch, so I'm going back to the 3DS era of Pokemon games, which I didn't play a whole lot of X and Y, but I have played a ton of Alpha Sapphire. Gen 3 is my absolute favorite Pokemon generation of all time. It's probably a nostalgia thing. I don't know if Gen 3 is regarded as like even a top 3 gen, but for me it definitely is. This was childhood right here, man. Ruby and Sapphire, the originals, which came out in what, like 03? Those are pretty old. This is a nice fresh coat of paint for the Ruby and Sapphire games. It's really cool that they have Mega Evolutions in here too. So if you're wanting to see a Mega Evolution of, you know, Sceptile, Swampert, Blaziken, you can have it in here. Kyogre and Groudon look incredible in 3D, and they have basically this ancient form, which is really cool as well. Alpha Sapphire, Omega Ruby, you can't really go wrong with it, man. It came out November 21st, 2014. So when this came out, like I said, handhelds were really, well, specifically the 3DS was not even on my radar. I didn't own one, but what's cool with it about it coming out on November 21st, 2014, it was exactly 12 years to the day after the originals came out on Game Boy Advance. So that was really cool that they kind of paid homage to the originals on the GBA. But yeah, amazing Gen 3 remake. Metacritic gave Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby a rating of 82, you know, solid enough. Is this as good as Heart Gold and Soul Silver for a remake? Probably not, right? Most Pokemon fans will tell you that, but I think this is an amazing game to have on 3DS and a hell of a lot better than the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes. I know people were not a big fan of those. Once again, I still didn't mind it, but I can understand why people were frustrated. Alpha Sapphire, Omega Ruby, if you're looking to get Alpha Sapphire physical on 3DS, which I think it has a pretty cool cover art, has some decent art here on the back, you're looking around 30 to 45 bucks to get this CIB on eBay, which I think is fair enough. 30 to 45 bucks for a Pokemon game is not bad, and it seems like Pokemon games just continue to skyrocket and go up and up and up in price every year, so you might want to pick this up while you still can for, you know, a somewhat decent price. Right, so next up here we have Super Mario 3D Land, and once again, this was not a game that I had played back in the day since I didn't have a 3DS, and I did not play this until somewhat recently. And I remember seeing this in stores and I was like, you know, hey, it just looks like your standard Mario game in a 3D open world. I was definitely kind of wrong, man. Don't get me wrong, this game does have, you know, nice 3D kind of open level concepts to it. But it does feel like a 2D side-scrolling Mario definitely meshed with a, you know, Mario 64 to a degree, because levels are somewhat linear, but they're also open at the same time. I know that sounds super confusing, but it's basically like Mario 2.5, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but I think it's a super good mesh in the sense that, hey, you can pick this up once again, hop in and out, do a quick play session, get through a level or two and put it down. You're not really having to dedicate a ton of time to it. Super Mario 3D Land came out back in November of 2011, so it was a really, really early 3DS title. Nope, this game gets some flack from some people. I don't really understand why. I think it's a fun Mario game. I'm enjoying it, and it's another game that if you turn 3D on, if you turn the 3D all the way up, I think it looks really good. I don't know if you want to play on 3D for like hours on end. It might not feel so good on your eyes, man. You don't want to burn your eyes out. But this is a fun one. I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm maybe like a quarter of the way through the game, so I'm not super deep in it, but this is one that I definitely want to finish up, and it's a nice change of pace from, you know, Super Mario Wonder that I recently played, or some of the classics like Mario Sunshine. This game got a 90 in must-play rating on Metacritic, so cream of the crop from Nintendo. This game sold a ton of copies. Anytime you see 3DS games in the wild, you're probably going to come across Super Mario 3D Land. If you're looking to pick this up physical, it goes for about 15 bucks on eBay, which is not too bad. And at the end of the day, man, it's a Mario game, so you're gonna have some fun with it. So last up here, this is a game that I discovered somewhat recently thanks to just doing some digging on YouTube and trying to get a little deeper into the 3DS library, and that's Pushmo. Pushmo is a super unique game where it's a puzzle game. And you might be like, man, a puzzle game, that sounds insanely boring. No, this game is awesome, man. And this is another game that also looks really good in 3D. But yeah, Pushmo was a game that was a digital only 3D release. So unfortunately, if you didn't buy it back in the day on the eShop, you're kind of out of luck in the sense that you have to have a modded 3DS to get it. So luckily mine is modded. I downloaded it on here and I'm absolutely loving it. But yeah, it was a downloadable only puzzle game. It looks absolutely incredible. It's a simple looking game. It's not graphically intensive by any means, but when you turn up 3D on this, you can play it without 3D as well, and I think it still looks good. But if you turn up 3D on it, I think this game looks really nice. It got a 90 on Metacritic, which, you know, that says a lot. This game had, you know, pretty much universal positive acclaim. And what was a really cool feature about this is you almost kind of had infinite levels to it, where you could get a QR code of a level online, scan it with your 3DS, and download it onto Pushmo. And they would be levels that people created where people would have like a Sonic level, for example, or, you know, I saw a Chun-Li one online from Street Fighter. So you have a ton of different options, a ton of different levels you can play on Pushmo. And kind of like I touched on earlier, this is a fun game where if you only have a couple minutes and if you want to hop on, get a quick game, this is the game to do it. Hop on, play a couple puzzles, call it a day, and, you know, get back to work or get back to whatever you're doing. So Pushmo, I highly recommend, but like I said, unfortunately, you cannot pick this up physical. So if you didn't buy it back in the day, having a modded 3DS is your only option. Yeah, I know these games weren't like exactly hidden gems by any means, or these games weren't really rare or underrated or anything like that. But like I said earlier, the 3DS was a system that I never really fully dove into. So I'm kind of late to the party on the 3DS, going back and playing some games that I really wish I would have checked out years ago. But I'm appreciating the 3DS more so now than ever, especially since I have a modded one. I'm able to go in and basically check out any game I want. I'm not too big on collecting physical 3DS games at this point. I do have a handful of some fairly heavy hitters, some really solid games and titles on the console. But you know, I've really been going back and looking at virtual console games, playing some underrated ones since I have a modded system. But yeah, if you're wanting to collect for the 3DS, it's a system where you can still get some of the mainline Nintendo titles and first-party games for fairly cheap. But a lot of the games are starting to rise in value since the eShop is shut down and you're starting to get some FOMO. Yeah, that's pretty much gonna do it, guys. These are, you know, 5 3DS games that I'm still playing in 2024 and having a ton of fun. Don't get me wrong, I love my Switch. The Switch is an amazing system. I love my GBA, don't get me wrong, but the 3DS is really something special. It has something for everyone. The library is incredible. It has really good indie games. You have virtual console games, of course, actual 3DS games. Let me know some 3DS games that you think I should play. If you're like, dude, how have you not played that before? Or you think it might be a fun recommendation, drop it below and I'm super down to check it out. Yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video, guys. Appreciate you watching and we'll catch you soon with another video.